Dear friends and followers, welcome back to my channel and lovely greetings yet again from the Cargolux tire shop. Today we'll be focusing on the question, why do airplane tires have essentially no grip and only the straight line profile? What type of tires are out there? Why a soft landing isn't always a tire's best friend, and what an MD-80 has got to do with a bicycle. So let's pump up those tires and let's get started.
Yeah, they can accept us at growth in 3 minutes.
Okay, Emirates 205. What you can do is when British Airways gets in front of you on the runway, go down to go.
Today's video is brought to you by the Captain Joe merch shop. Click the link in the description box below to get your Captain Joe remove before flight keyring. You know that every true aviator needs one of these, so therefore we ship around all the world. We accept all types of payments, so if it's either for you, a family member or a friend of yours who is an aviation enthusiast and you want to gift him one of those, go to the link in the description box below and get one of these babies. They're just kick-ass cool and they're red. In a previous video of mine, we discussed how many landings an airplane tire can withstand, and I threw some numbers your way on tire pressure and also the reason why airplane tires are filled with nitrogen. I recommend you guys to check it out, as it will give you a better understanding of how robust and ingenious these tires are. The link to the video is right here. Now, the strength and the design of the outside layer of the tire, or what is called the thread layer, is largely dependent on what surface it will come in contact with. Now, planes land on all sorts of surfaces: asphalt, gravel, sand, grass, snow, and with floats even on water. So for each operation, tires come in different shapes and sizes, thread designs, and inflation pressure. So for example, some smaller general aviation planes are fitted with so-called tundra tires or balloon tires. With an increased tire size and with a decreased tire pressure, the surface area becomes much greater, preventing sharp rocks, for example, to puncture them, allowing them to land in a, hence the name, tundra. And they allow you to do these cool things like this. Now, if any one of my followers has a plane like this, please contact me. I need to fly with you. The same principle in surface area and lower tire pressure is used in driving 4x4s on sandy beaches. If you look closely, the drivers deflate their tires before going onto the sand to increase their surface area and prevent them from sinking into the sand. Then you have your standard Cessna or Piper airplane tire. Now, the size is appropriate to the aircraft weight, but you already see they have the parallel groove profile. Now, there are some aircraft that had horizontal or grip profile tires to assist in rough terrain. And because these aircraft approach and land at lower speeds, the reason for straight parallel profiles was not really needed. But I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, an example of such a plane is the Hawker Sea Fury used in the Korean War. I mean, mate, what a beautiful plane right there. But let's talk about the tire right here. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video on airplane tires, the rubber shoes of the 747 can be inflated up to 210 psi. Now, these tires are reinforced, enabling this immense pressure, which in turn increases the strength of the tire itself, because commercial aircraft are more interested in strength than maneuverability, as takeoff and landing are the most crucial moments for an airplane tire. Taxi, not so much. So if we look at the top part of the thread, you'll see the straight line profile. Now, the primary reason for this particular profile is to clear water from the tire when taking off or landing on wet runways, and for general directional control. Because unlike cars, we do not need the grip to drive around corners constantly. Cars take corners at 100 miles per hour and faster. Planes taxi around corners at a maximum of 11 miles per hour. What we want is strength and prevention of hydroplaning. Now, what is hydroplaning or aquaplaning? I use both words, but they actually mean the same. Now, this is essentially when your aircraft tire slips or skids on top of water, water builds under the tire and physically lifts the tire off the ground, causing you to lose contact with the runway surface, and then your tire just skids over the wet runway, resulting in barely any braking action. So the straight tire profile like this helps eliminate this effect of water buildup, as the water can collect within and be pushed through these parallel grooves. Does that make sense? Now, the immediate question is, why not have a tire profile like on your car, where the profile helps push the water out to the sides of the tire when driving on a wet road? It's a great idea, but there are three major problems. If an airplane tire has such a grip profile like your car tire, the profile would clog up relatively quickly after a few landings due to the immense tire abrasion on landing. Now, making it a slick tire over time, as they have in Formula 1. It's great for Lewis Hamilton, but it's not for a 747. Now, the second problem, or the likelihood of the grip profile deteriorating, is much higher due to these smaller individual rubber surfaces, causing rubber bits to fly off and possibly creating an unbalanced tire. And lastly, grip profiles are meant to grip, meaning small stones could get caught in the grippy profile, let's say during taxi, and once hurtling down the runway, the stones could get flung up against the wing and damage the airplane fuel tank. So three reasons which are all no bueno. But an interesting tire profile, or should I say a design, you can see on some nose wheel tires on private jets or aircraft with the engines mounted on the rear fuselage. As in the previous video, I showed you that the 747 tires are all the same from the main gear, including to the nose wheel tires. But these jet tires have what is called a chin on the shoulder of the tire. Now, they are essentially rubber extensions and deflect the water when landing or taking off on contaminated runways, and away from the rear engine's intake to help prevent flame out or foreign object damage. Now, the engineers on the MD-80 and some older 737s went even a step further and placed a metal frame around the nose wheel tire, which deflected the water spray from entering the engines, a so-called spray deflector, or commonly known as the gravel kit. Proof that grip nose wheel tire wouldn't get the job done. But let's get back to the tire being pushed up by water and hydroplaning. Now, as you come in for landing, for example with a Boeing 747, at an approach speed of 150 knots, and you were to gently touch down, the danger of aquaplaning or hydroplaning might occur. Now, what exactly happens during hydroplaning? Let's say your tires are pretty worn and the parallel groove is not deep enough to redirect all the water coming at the tire. Now, a wave of water builds up in front of the tire, acting like a wedge, pushing itself in between the runway surface and your tire. Now, the higher the speed, the higher the hydroplane force, lifting the tire off the runway, losing directional control. Now, it's very important for a pilot to know when his plane is busy hydroplaning, because there is nothing he can do at that moment, especially not braking. And that's where the anti-skid system comes to play, but that's a topic in an upcoming video. So when the pilot brakes during hydroplaning, it causes heat between the tire and the water and causes the tire thread to melt. Yes, melt. I know what I'm talking about because that happened to me during my days on the Beach King Air. I performed a soft landing on a wet runway, which is not what you're supposed to do. If you are landing on a wet runway, all flight crew training manuals recommend performing a positive landing. Now, what is meant by that? Now, you should not hard land like do, but with some positive force to give the tires a chance to push the water aside or into the parallel grooves as mentioned before. Now, I couldn't feel that we were hydroplaning, so I applied the brakes and reverse thrust. And as we reduced speed more or less by reverse thrust only, my colleagues and I could feel a ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum sound during taxi. Now, the tires had a flat spot and a bead of melted rubber in front of it. Now, the result of hydroplaning. Now, in my case, a new set of tires was needed after the soft skidding over water landing. So a general rule of thumb is, if you can see the top layer of the fabric, also called plies, the tire needs to be replaced, and therefore the parallel groove is also a great indicator on the state of the tire when it comes to the thread. Now therefore it is very important that the pilots during their outside check thoroughly inspect the tires for any cuts, bulges, flat spots, inserted metals or screws that could be picked up on the apron. Now all of these can reduce the integrity or strength of the tire and cause a malfunction on landing. In an upcoming video we'll be focusing on how this profile also helps with the anti-skid system upon landing. So I hope the next time you guys look at a tire and you see the parallel tire profile, you'll understand the role it plays in deflecting water and helps prevent hydroplaning. That's it for today. Thank you very much for your time. Here's your checklist for today. Subscribe to my channel, check. Activate the notification bell, check. Follow my Instagram account, check. And don't forget, a good pilot is always learning. Wishing you all the best. See you next week. Your Captain Joe.